Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good because I'll tell you what, when Philip Fortenberry is back in the building, I just relax.
He's back in the building.
Yeah.
Yes.
He just brings, I'm going to use a biblical word for you. He brings a countenance.
brings a countenance.
Countenance. Isn't that a good word, Philip? Countenance. Yes. You know, I feel like when Philip's here in the building and even in the room as we speak, things are better.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Things are better.
So
Things
life
are
is
better.
good. And there's candy on the table in front of us. Do you see
Yes,
that?
there is.
That's good.
To, help support April Fool's Day.
That's right.
Yeah. It's
Is it not really?
I don't
Is it
know.
really? Is it just
I don't
actually
know.
individually wrapped little bars of soap? It's April Fool's. It's not chocolate. It's
I have not tried.
It's like hotel soap.
I've not
Is that
tried
what we
them
got
yet.
here? So
Yeah.
I don't know. Looks pretty good, and it looks nice.
It
too.
looks great,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah. So yesterday, we got to back up further, but yesterday was the tax deadline in our house.
At your house in particular.
Very specifically.
Yes.
Because tomorrow I head to Chicago for the ELCA Church Council.
Yes.
And then I'm gone until next week, near the end of the week.
So it was time
And Rachel
to
said,
sit down.
do not come home, getting ready for Palm Sunday and Holy Week, and then think you're also going to do our family taxes in the midst of the entrance into Holy Week.
Yeah, they kind of really coincide this year.
Yes, they do. And
Yeah.
there was no fight here, but she always wants to make sure. So I
It's
said,
good to they like it when you get that done.
yes. So I said, Monday, yesterday, is the day. So Sunday night, I went through all of our, paperwork. We keep it in a gallon Ziploc bag. When I
Yeah.
say we, I mean Rachel organizes it.
Trying to keep it all
In
together,
one
though.
big
Yep.
gallon Ziploc bag, and it's 2024 taxes on it, right? So
how you do it.
So I go through it, and I'm like, okay, here's what I'm missing. I mean, it's nothing that we can't print off, right? But I'm missing a couple of things. Nothing.
Yeah, there's
big.
always something. You think
Yeah.
you've got it all in that bag or whatever you
Yeah.
have, and then there's always something.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I went through that Sunday night. She printed out those things, and then on Monday I downloaded my preferred tax program that I've been using since 2003. Brand name. I'm sure you all know it. It begins with a word that says fast. Not that word, but if something is charged up, it's
yes. Yes.
because until they pay me to plug their program, I'm not, a sponsorship.
We'll happily accept sponsors. But
Yes.
Yeah.
But
that's what I
none-
use too.
None has happened. And I buy the deluxe version because it has all the clergy stuff and all the extra stuff. So got it all done and sent it off because I e-file, of course, e-file.
You don't pick up the application at the library.
Yeah,
and
right, and fill
pencil
it
it all
out.
in. Yeah.
Kansas City, right, yeah. No, so filed it, and within 10 minutes, they had accepted it. Not just said they received it, but they said they've accepted it, versus the one that when they email you back and say, we got your taxes, now we will audit you. They said, accepted, done for the year.
Okay.
So not only did I finish my taxes, but the IRS also said,
You are.
well done, good and faithful servant.
It is finished.
It is finished, to
Yes.
use another biblical term.
Yes.
So I am officially done with tax year 2024.
So how do you feel today?
I feel pretty good.
Okay.
I was saying in staff meeting today, I was talking to Philip about this. I'm like, anytime you sit down to do that, my heart races a little bit. Is this going to be, did I set out enough money to either break even or get a refund of my money? It's not their money, right? Or did I not put enough in? So I have to write a check. So just starting in always makes me a little nervous.
Yeah.
And so got in, I'm like, nope, I don't have to write a check this year. So
Okay.
that's a relief. And that is not always the case, but I will tell you that our accountant here has helped me make sure we're withholding the right amounts of money.
Yeah.
So
It's good to get that balance.
and she's looked things over and said, okay, this is where you need to be. And in years that passed prior to that, I've been burned. So I'm always like, are you sure? Are you really sure? I don't want to have to write a big check at the, in April, right? So anyways, it's done. It's resolved. It's over.
It is finished.
It is finished.
Yes.
So
Well
and-
done.
And so that means that tomorrow morning, head to the airport in the morning and fly to Chicago. And at the same time,
With a clean conscience.
clean conscience.
Yes.
That's right. I may owe other people emails or replies, but I do not owe the IRS any
Yes.
communication.
Yes. We're talking about debts next tomorrow, actually.
Yes,
You know,
forgive us our debts. I hope you work in the IRS tomorrow in the message.
Yes, that's what I put on my tax form is forgive us
Our
our
debts, as we forgive those who debt against us
Yes.
or are indebted to us or
Yep,
whatever.
hey,
Yeah.
it's a good verse.
It is. I'm sure they like that when you scrawl it across an empty 1040 form, right? Be like Jesus, IRS. So tomorrow morning, head to the airport. Rachel is going to the airport too, but she is flying to Phoenix because my mother-in-law on Thursday morning is having a hip replacement.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And so, which reminds me, I need to get Meemaw on the prayer list.
Put her on the prayer list.
Yep.
Yes.
But so we're actually both flying, but we're headed in two different directions.
directions.
She'll
Yeah.
be there as long as I am gone, trying to get her mom back on her feet so she can be self-sufficient. So that's the big thing after hip surgery, just like a knee replacement is, can you get yourself up? Can you be self-sufficient? And that doesn't happen in the first few days at all. So she will be down there until next Thursday, provided everything unfolds the way it should. So, yeah. So
Wow.
we got that going on too.
Okay.
So, yeah, and we've been fundraising after we finished our carpet fellowship hall air conditioning thing. We moved into something a little bit more exciting and meaningful of raising money for our youth group.
Yeah. So our youth group, we go on mission trips every summer.
Yep.
The kids get ready. They take off to Long Beach in California.
Yep.
And also taking a crew out to the Midwest.
Out to the Midwest
So
this year.
Illinois is just a good way to
Out to the land of Lincoln to Augustana College.
Augustana College.
Yeah, my alma
So I
mater.
have not been to Leadership Lab.
Yeah.
But I know you've been a part of that
Since
for a number of years.
1985
Yeah.
was my first year at this camp called Leadership Lab, one of our Lutheran leadership camps. And so, when you think about 1985 to 2025, that's a good portion of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this church has a history of going to Leadership Lab. But
I'm responsible for that too.
but yeah, we have not. The church has not gone
In a number of years.
In a number of years.
Yeah.
And so it'll be an opportunity to go back.
Yeah, and bring some of these kids some leadership skills and that they can bring back. And so we've been last couple of weeks we've been having our youth group and our leaders out in the Crossroads area with paper representations of the kids going.
Yes.
And a part of this fundraiser is to it's not quite graffiti.
It's yeah.
It's not quite pranking.
No,
But it's-
but they do want to. Well, they were accepting notes, as many of you saw, if you stopped by the booth the youth group had.
To write some notes.
Wanted to write a little note, and then the youth wanted to have a little fun while delivering those notes. to
That's
different
right.
People.
So
in the
they were
church.
in my office either Sunday afternoon or Monday.
Delivering you some notes.
Delivering
but they
me some
did
notes.
it with some style, right?
Yes, they did. Can we put that picture up on the screen? So they were in my office, and you can see that they decorated
Some flamingos
and
palm trees.
Yep, and you see one of our youth there holding notes that were delivered. I have those notes and holding on to them. So they came in, they decorated, they took a picture, and then they took down the decorations. I think half out of fear that the senior pastor would not want his office messed with.
They did get in, though.
They did.
Not everybody can get into your office.
Well, it's only because our leader, Patrick, said, "Could you leave your office unlocked when you leave on Sunday?" And I said, "Yes, I can." So,
yes, and so they were able to get in.
and I only brought one picture today, but the other one I have is that little girl right there.
Yes.
There's a picture of her on my couch near my llama blanket.
Oh.
Setting things up. It was a really cute picture of her. Like, okay, there's the llama, and I'm gonna put a little thing over here and a little thing, but
Yeah.
not on the llama.
Yeah.
And but some of our members who gave gifts to the kids for the scholarship money also wrote some nice notes.
Yep.
And then I know for you, where they know that you would allow anything. They left the decorations.
They
up
left some of those decorations up.
in your
Yes.
office. Yeah.
Yes. So.
So yeah. So just kind of a fun thing. Words of encouragement. Notes passed on from some of our faithful people donating.
Yep.
And we just think that that's really nice. So
Announcements were fun.
yeah. So I'm gonna hold on to those notes because I always hold on to things like that. And,
It's always kind of special, right?
It is.
Anytime you
It
have
really
a chance
is.
to.
And I really appreciate any
Have
of
a
our
thank you.
members supporting our youth going on these different things.
It does make a difference, like with these kids. Like
So we
it
appreciate
does
that.
Make a difference.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So, yeah, and it's crazy to think about our timeline. And I know you guys don't think this way, but in the church, we're always thinking about these things. And one of the things is, we're only 2 Sundays out from Palm Sunday. I mean, and
Yeah.
I don't mean 2 and then Palm Sunday. I mean, we got one weekend and then
And then you're there.
and then it's Palm
Yeah.
Sunday.
To go back, I think the tech team also got pranked. We have a picture of that as well.
Oh.
So from behind the booth, we just heard from Jason that multiple people got notes, including that's up in the tech booth, up in the sanctuary. So against the back wall at level 2, it's the only level 2 we have.
Yes.
Is the tech booth, and it looks like the tech booth also had a visitation.
Nowhere is safe.
That's right. Did they leave any notes for you guys?
I think so. Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. I even got a note to pass on to our founding pastor, Pastor Ray.
How about that?
So isn't that sweet?
How about that?
So thank you for showing that one too.
That's great.
But we're only literally 10 days out from 11 days out from Palm Sunday. And today, and I just heard somebody sigh in the background in the room here.
I know it's another one of those deadlines. Yeah, that's coming up fast, right?
Yeah, Philip at the keyboard just rolling his eyes right now. We were planning and laying out everything for Palm Sunday. We've already kind of have a rough outline of Easter. We kind of know where we're headed with Easter. But today we did a deep dive not only on what's coming up this weekend, but a big kind of planning session on Palm Sunday.
Yeah.
And
'Cause it
laying
is right
things
around the
out.
corner.
And I will tell you that Palm Sunday weekend is going to be a great weekend for us. We got great music at all the services, and it is going to be a really special day. So, I mean, every year it is, but I feel like we put a lot of energy into making sure, like, the flow of the service and the theme of the service, like, just it all goes together. And in some years, and even in some worship, you're like, well, these parts go together and these parts, but this one feels like everything is moving towards one goal. And I mean, that's our aim every week, but to see that on paper this week is like, oh man, this is really going to be special for us. So I'm excited by that. And then all the extra instrumentation that we will have on Easter, kind of what I would call a baby orchestra. Is that fair? Baby orchestra, mini orchestra. Yeah, and the sound that we'll be able to produce, although big every weekend, just having those extra instruments are going to be really special too. So, kind of fun.
It is. It's a fun time. It's an exciting time, and it's a lot going on.
Yep. And I'll tell you, we're in this sermon series with the music of Keith Thompson, right? And I can't tell you how many times over the last 4 weeks, that people on the way out have stopped and said, this music is so special. This music is so meaningful. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And I'm like, and I'm so glad we're using that, like I said, with music in one, Keith Thompson music in one hand and scripture in the other. It makes our job easier in terms of preaching, but it really helps illustrate a point, not just with your mind, but with your heart when you hear music. And so I've loved this and doing this, and it's interesting because it's a lot of work to line up somebody to sing at 4 services. And so it's not like, oh, well, come and do 2 services on a Sunday. No, we got Saturday night and then 3 on Sunday morning.
And
so
Keith has been phenomenal about finding the right person for each song really, speaks to the song.
And I hope, and I haven't spoken to him specifically about this, I hope he's pleased with how this has turned out. Because originally he's like, are you sure? Do you really want to do that? What do I have to contribute? Is kind of his, and he meant it, a very humble way. It's like, I don't think this really adds anything. And I'm like, no, I really think it does. And it has. And so this has been really special. But let's go back to Sunday. And we heard a song that ties to finding a place, finding a time, finding the right person, the one above, to find rest in, to take a break. And so let's listen to Turn to Me.
When you need a shelter, when you need a shade, when you need a shoulder, when you're lost, alone, afraid, when you need the comfort of care and sympathy, no judgments, no conditions, know that you can turn to me. Turn to me, my heart is here to hide you. Turn to me, my arms are open wide. Turn to me when hope is gone, and I will ease your mind. And when you just can't carry on, I will help you find a harbor in the storm, a fire in the night to keep you warm. When your heartache is more than you can bear, turn to me, I'll be there. Life is just an ocean, a wild and windy sea. When you need an anchor, know that you can turn to me. And I will give you fortress to find your faith again. A boat against the current, turn to me and find a friend. Turn to me, and I will sail beside you. Turn to me, I'll help you through the tide. Turn to me when hope is gone, and I will ease your mind. And when you just can't carry on, I will help you find and your heartache is more than you can bear, turn to me. Turn to me. I'll be there. You can turn to me, and I'll be there.
So quite a song,
Quite a song.
quite
Yeah.
a singer,
Yeah.
quite a piano player.
Yeah.
That's an all-star lineup.
Yeah.
And but I love this, and I got to, as you know, in preparation, what I get to do is I get to, well, essentially prepare a book report every week and report out and give an oral report on my book report from the Bible. And so, the theme of this was turn to me and find a safe place, find some rest. And digging into scripture and discovering and being able to share that, even one of the commandments is remember the Sabbath to keep it holy.
Yeah.
And that Sabbath literally turns out to just mean take a break, to rest. And, this misconception of, well, I guess really bad preachers saying, well, Sabbath means you better go to church, right?
Yeah.
And it's way more than that. Yes, one should honor and give thanks to the one who wants to take care of us, even in physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological rest. But it isn't just like, well, go to church, right? It's find that space. And I used the illustration on Sunday of Jacob.
Yeah, I thought that was good because
Right.
it's a story that has a lot of meaning, a lot of depth, but we don't always come back to that story.
Does God will God watch over you when you're tired from doing dumb stuff? That's the question, right? And we see that in that him running away because he caused a bunch of grief. God's there, and even says, and I didn't even have time to get into this, but after that dream of seeing the ladder to heaven, he not only says, am I going to give you the land, but he says, but I will be with you and watch over you. So even in that, I didn't even have a chance to
Right.
go into the second part of that, but even in that promise, and I mentioned it's like, God says I'm going to be there. But that's not the only place. Is we could have easily said, okay, is God going to be with you to take a break when you do dumb stuff? Where else could you look? And you can go to Jonah,
Yeah.
of all places. So, most of you know the story of Jonah. He's told to go to Nineveh, a non-Jewish city, tell them to change their ways. He's like, no, I'm going to take a cruise. He goes the opposite way. God stops the boat. They throw Jonah over. He gets swallowed up. And he prays like, okay, God, I messed this up. I'm so sorry. Can I try again? And the fish goes, bleh. And he goes and he preaches and tells this city of Nineveh, which you said was also known as a violent kind of place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they listen to him. And as soon as he hears that they're repenting, even the king's like, we're changing our ways. We're putting on sackcloth.
We'll repent.
And
we will.
And they even put sackcloth on the animals,
They did.
like everybody.
Yep. After Noah just came in, or Jonah just came in, short sermon, but to the point.
Yep. King says everybody, including the pigs.
Yep.
Right? And he hears this, and Jonah is torqued off. He's angry.
Yeah.
And he says to God, he's like, see, I knew I shouldn't have come here. He's like, these people were going to change their hearts. They were going to listen to you no matter what. And I didn't need to be that guy. And I really just wanted to come here, tell them to change their ways, and watch the fireworks. I wanted a real Sodom and Gomorrah moment of brimstone and flames. And he's like, and I'm not even going to get that. And I'm mad at you, God, because you knew all along these people were going to clean up their act.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is what happens. So this, after Jonah has his little fit, like his
Yeah.
tirade, Jonah went out and sat down at a place east of the city, and he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. Then the Lord God provided a vine, made it grow up over Jonah to give shade for his head, to ease his discomfort, and Jonah was very happy about the vine. So even after Jonah kind of yells at God for saying, see, this was dumb, I shouldn't have done this, and he goes out and he's like, well, maybe they won't pull their act together, and maybe we'll get a fireworks show anyways. What does God do but send a vine to give him shade? So God will provide timeout space for even people like Jacob, people like Jonah. Jonah has a terrible attitude. And the rest of that story is really something else, because the next day he's still sitting out there taking a break and resting, and God sends a worm to chew on the vine.
And he has no more shade.
And he has no more shade. And then Jonah starts complaining about that. He's like, I can't believe I don't have any shade, and I can't believe how hot it is, and this is terrible. And God says, why do you care more about the vine than those souls in Nineveh?
Yeah.
And pretty much Jonah says, yeah, I do.
Yep.
And God says, shouldn't I be concerned about lost people, right? And that's where the story ends. There's no resolution.
No, you don't. You have Nineveh being saved, but you don't have any resolution
With Jonah.
With Jonah,
Right? But it just goes to the point that God's invitation to take a break, to find rest, isn't limited to good people. That God is so gracious and so kind that all are invited into that place to reset, take a breath. And I don't think everybody sees that God wants the best for everybody. And a part of that in our rhythm of life is finding a place of rest. And, I'm not sure that we see that so much or live into that, where it's like, it's okay to check out a little bit. It's okay to say, I need a break, and not just wear ourselves out.
We all need a place to turn and find rest.
And I mentioned this this weekend, is sometimes we intentionally stay over busy because we don't actually want to deal with what we're actually feeling. Like, I'm tired, but if I stop, I might have to process something I don't want to really process. And so I'll just stay busy and wear myself out even more. And there comes a point where you just burn yourself out, right? And so the instruction and the reason I'm even talking about this is, before you get to that place, just go ahead and take the break. Go ahead and take the rest. And when I was thinking about that Jonah with the vine, it made me think a little bit more of, I mentioned Psalm 121 in my message, one verse, but there's more to that psalm about finding rest and finding shade like Jonah. Would you share that?
Yeah. So this begins in Psalm 121, beginning at verse 5. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand.
Just like Jonah.
The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore.
So there's that promise again that keeps showing up, that God's just like, wherever you're at, I'm going to stick to you like glue. And I want to provide for things and the comfort of taking care of you, of being that spiritual shade in your life. Or when you need to stop, God says, I'm going to stop too. You're not going to miss the parade. You can take a break and resume when you're ready. And sometimes I think that we don't give ourselves that kind of grace. God's extending it, but I don't think we always take it.
Yeah.
Well, if I don't do this, no one else will, and I have to do this because no one else, said they would do it, and we keep piling on, and then it becomes a martyr syndrome of, woe is me, look at all I'm doing, and of course the comparison is, look what they're not doing, whoever they,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And it's like, well, let's take a breath. And I've said, that even here at church, that if somebody picks up some sort of ministry or something to do and it goes for a few years and they decide to stop it or they don't want to continue on, that doesn't automatically mean that somebody has to fill those shoes. That things have seasons, and that if somebody's ready to take a break and somebody else doesn't want to pick up the mantle of whatever that thing is, it's okay to let it go.
Right.
You don't try to force things. And then you never know. Somebody might say, well, I'd be willing to do that later on. But it's okay to take a break and say enough's enough. And if somebody doesn't say, I'll do it for you, it's okay to let the thing go too, right? And I think sometimes we hold on too tight to stuff. And it's okay to take a break.
And it's important to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when God was laying out the 10 Commandments, and within that is find that day of rest. I talked a little bit about that on Sunday, but I want to keep going in that.
Okay.
So there's a lot in there. And so God says, take a break. It's good to do that. 6 days you work. That seventh day is different. Don't do stuff. Now, this is in that same Exodus 31. So it's a continuation of some stuff I talked about on Sunday. And he said, the Israelites are to observe the Sabbath, that means rest, celebrating it for generations to come as a lasting covenant. It will be a sign between me and the Israelites forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and earth, and on the seventh day God abstained from work and rested. So not only does God say you should just take a break, but he goes as far to say it's a covenant. It's a part of a promise, a unbreakable promise that like living into a relationship with God, God says it's important you take a day. Not only give thanks, but also just don't do anything else.
Yeah.
Just rest. And it's one thing to say you should do this and that, here's the rhythm of life. It's another thing to God say, this is a covenant. I
Yes.
want you to remember what I have done for you. And the way you do that is you take a break. That's some serious talk.
Yeah. Yeah. To put it in that language.
To put it
say
in
that's-
covenant language.
That's what God wanted.
Yeah. That's why my Sunday afternoon nap this past week
Sacred.
was sacred. It was holy. It was living into the covenant. That's the new euphemism for taking a nap. I'm living into the covenant, taking a break. But I really like that. And of course, what God does is he's like, you guys already know the stories of creation. And remember I told you that they are more like parables than they are historical. But even God draws on those early stories and says, remember how that story went? For 6 days I did all the work of creation, but what I do on the seventh,
Take some time to
take some
rest.
time off. Which tells you it's a parable because here's the quiz for today. Does God actually need to rest? True or false? False. God does not need to rest. God is God, right?
But is there something important all of us, in not just resting, but also in looking back and looking at all the blessings,
Yeah.
all the things that God has said, this is good, not only stating that, but to state that really requires, hey, I'm going to leave space
Yeah.
to acknowledge the goodness.
That's
that is
exactly
present.
right. And that's what that day of rest is because you're not doing the other things, right?
Right. Right.
Now Jesus once got in trouble. He was in synagogue, so it was the Sabbath. So Jewish Sabbath is Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. That's their Sabbath, day of rest. We pick Sunday not to be different, but it's the day of resurrection. So we know that Jesus rose from the dead on the first day of the week, and that's a Sunday, not a Monday, even though it feels like Monday's the first day of the week. And so our Sabbath is on Sunday because of Easter. That's like we're going to celebrate resurrection every weekend. So it was the Sabbath, somewhere between Friday night and Saturday night, and Jesus was in the synagogue, and he healed somebody. And remember, if you were with us this weekend, they immediately jumped down Jesus' throat for when they were walking on the road and picking little heads of grain and popping it in their mouth. You are working on the Sabbath. You're harvesting. You know,
Yeah, you talk about missing the point.
missing the point.
Yeah.
So Jesus heals somebody in the synagogue. And they're like, you're working, not, oh my gosh, a miracle.
A miracle. Yes, let's give thanks.
Let's give thanks. Like, holy smokes, we didn't know you had that kind of power. No, you're working on the Sabbath. And Jesus then says, well, let's think about it this way. Is if you had a sheep who fell into a ditch, which you've shown
Yeah,
sheep
we have
ditch footage in church.
I have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how they immediately jumped right back in the ditch. Right? He's like, if a sheep fell in a ditch and maybe was even hurt on the Sabbath, would you not want to help that sheep? You know, wouldn't you want to free that sheep? Because it's the kind and compassionate thing to do, right? And I think everybody would agree, like, oh yeah, you know, if I had a sheep that was hurt and stuck, we'd get it out. And Jesus says this about the miracle. After talking about this sheep, he said, how much more valuable is a person than a sheep? And then he says this, here's the conclusion. Therefore, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
You know, the other story, he said, Sabbath was made for people, not people for the Sabbath, right? He's not saying, well, now that you work 6 days, now your seventh day you work for God, and God set up the Sabbath so that you do all the religious things, and you better do them
Yes.
right. He's like, no, Sabbath was created for people, not vice versa. Here he's like, look, to do something good for someone, including yourself,
Including yourself. Yes.
is lawful. It's good. It's okay. Matter of fact, doing good for someone or yourself actually brings a sense of peace and well-being. And so Jesus is like, that's all within the spirit of taking a break, of serving or doing something kind, and it'll make you feel good, you know, when you serve. And he's like, you know, there's no prohibition on doing something good for somebody or even yourself.
Yeah.
And what a reminder for us. And, you know, and the lyrics to Keith Thompson's song, right? Turn to me when your hope is gone and I will ease your mind. And when you just can't carry on, I will help you find a harbor in the storm, a fire in the night to keep you warm. And when your heartache is more than you can bear, turn to me and I will be there. And that's the invitation into that rest. Now here's the thing. Don't forget, tomorrow at noon, we have our Lenten service.
Yep.
And we want folks, either whether you're in person or online, you can tune in right at noon Pacific time or come to our chapel. And would love to be a part of that. And then you will be back here on Thursday.
I sure will.
I will try to send in a little something,
all right.
little check-in.
Let us know what it's like.
What's happening in Chicago
In
on Thursday. That's when meetings kick off. So I'll probably record something before I get into meetings, because my guess is the presiding bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Church would not want me to do a live video cast in the midst of
during the meeting.
during the church council meeting. So, you know, so I will get something out ahead of time. And of course, I will send something in for the weekend too to
Sounds good.
let folks know what's going on. So, anyways, take care. God bless you. We love you. And first time in a week, I can say, Philip, will you play us out?